Tonight on the Goblin's Corner.
Themed campaigns.
That's how we roll. 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 That's how we roll.
Welcome to the Goblin's Corner. My name is Eric.
And I'm Matt.
And tonight,
We're doing themed campaigns.
indeed, themed campaigns are something that you need to know how to run because, to be quite frank, every campaign is a themed campaign.
It's true. Some more than others, but
Right.
all of them tend to have a theme.
But if you ever play any type of TTRPG and you're running out of a box,
It's a themed campaign.
It's a themed
Yeah.
campaign. If you've ever had an idea for a specific group of characters to play with, it's a themed campaign.
Yeah.
And if you just had a wild hair up your ass and you just wanted to do something zany,
It's a themed
it's a
campaign.
themed campaign.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about themed campaigns tonight, how you can run one for your campaign. But first,
There's a question of the week.
every time.
Yep.
So what is it this time, Matt?
So, since we're talking about themed campaigns,
Yes.
what themed campaign have you always wanted to run, but never seemed to get around to?
So many.
Sure.
So many. I would say
Which is a shame because we've been doing this for a long time.
we play a lot of games, guys. I don't know if you've noticed. You could look behind Matt there. Matt, please gesture like Vanna for me. Thank you. And most of that's D&D, but to be perfectly honest, yeah, below
Actually, most of the not D&D stuff is
it's
on
all
the shelf
it's
behind
all,
me
yeah,
here.
The archive actually extends multiple feet away from everything else. And to be perfectly fair, we've actually cannibalized a lot of our books and stored them in boxes just so we could record.
Well, and keep in mind, a lot of our other library is at a different friend's house.
It's also true.
Because
What is it, like
he keeps
30 foot of
the vault.
bookshelves. Yes,
Yeah.
he's got a basement with all of the fixins. If you guys have ever seen Mallrats, it looks a lot like that. The basement down, although it's definitely not as well kept, I would say. He just throws everywhere, but that's fine.
but not the books.
But not the books, and he doesn't bend the spines, which is what I approve.
Which is why they're allowed to be there.
That's right. So we play a lot of different games, and there's tons of games we haven't had a chance to play, and it's a damn shame.
Yep.
You know what I want to play?
What?
I played it once.
Well, what do you want to run? That's the question. We can do one each. What do you want to run and what do you want to play?
I would like to run an anime campaign.
Okay.
Now, that seems easy enough, but there is a plethora of different anime-style campaigns.
Sure.
I want to run one. I don't care if it's Bubblegum Crisis, which we've got a book that's just sitting at our friend's house currently.
Yeah.
Just moldering on the shelf at this point, because how old is this game at this point? Yeah.
Oh,
Look
God.
at your eyes.
87 to 90, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. So many of our listeners weren't even,
Born. Yeah.
yeah, they weren't even like a little twinkle in the eye at that point and a stiff drink. I would love to play that or run that game. I would love to play, honestly, I want to play some White Wolf games, which we haven't had a good chance to play. We've
Yeah.
got people who work at White Wolf that
Our
we
friends
know.
of ours. Yeah.
Yeah, that we haven't had a chance to play White Wolf. I'd love to play a Sin Eaters campaign. I want to play and run the Wild West Sin Eaters, where you're resurrected. A posse got mown down. They even killed your dog, and then you come back pissed off, ready to rustle up some outlaws and take justice into your own hands. Boy, dig out your damn cowboy hat and your 6-shooters and let's go riding. You know that would be awesome. Come on.
Would.
And have the whole Wild West be
Our staff writer is going to need to be in town for that game to happen.
absolutely. Sigil will definitely have to be in the town for that. We'll have, I could see, what is it? The madam is a vampire from World of Darkness, maybe.
Sure.
You could have the bartender be a werewolf or a beast.
Sure.
Or honestly, having a mummy. The coffin maker's the mummy.
The coffin maker's the mummy.
Yeah,
The bartender should be a were-coyote.
absolutely. And maybe some of the hard drinking hucksters are a couple of mages
Sure.
or what have you. There's the sky's the limit, brother. Like we could do that. Anyhow, so that's what I want to play. That's what I
Preacher
want.
man could be a hunter.
That would be great. Yeah, he should be.
But he's just surrounded by a town that he knows is bad trouble.
Bad times. Bad times. You don't want to mess too much
He's
with
just
that.
trying to work it out.
It's like Dusk Till Dawn, but in the Wild West.
Yep.
All right. What about you? What would you like to run? What would you like to play?
To run, I would love to run a revolution campaign where the players are attempting to overthrow a government.
Any type of government in particular?
I love a good French Revolution style. I'm certainly not against that. Any kind of tyrant would be good.
Tyrant? Yeah, it gets tyrant. Yeah. I like that.
So
I think running that would be fun. I'd love to play that, and I probably will.
now I'd like to play in a Revolution campaign also, but beside that, I've yet to get to play other than, I mean, you can kind of count Eberron, but I would like to play in a proper steampunk campaign.
Steampunk campaign?
Yes.
I agree with that as well.
I want to play a professor.
Are you a professor? Or perhaps you like steampunk? Write to us. info@goblinscorner.com, or you can reach me, Eric@goblinscorner.com, or
Me, Matt at goblinscorner.com.
and as always, you can find us on all the things. So many things.
Many, many.
Like Instagram,
But mostly Twitter.
but mostly Twitter. Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's what we all talk on. I check the rest of them sometimes. Okay. Let's talk about theme campaigns.
All right.
Because
Yeah.
that's the nature of the show for tonight. First off, let's ask the most important question. In case you are a noob, or maybe you're just trying to learn a little bit more about gaming in general, played for a while, what is a theme campaign? What do we mean when we say that?
In general, a themed campaign is your typical TTRPG, but base it off of a particular style or set of events or party makeup.
Okay. So that's a couple of qualifications that we can use to make a TTRPG.
Right. Like, some good examples would be an evil campaign,
Mm-hmm.
a pirate campaign, things like that. Those are themed campaigns.
Now, both of those we tend to degenerate into later on,
Right.
but
when they're planned ahead of time, they're themed campaigns.
fair enough. Now, as we mentioned, most box sets or any game that you buy, or even if you run one, has some kind of set of rules, and they usually have a theme with it. There's very few that don't have some kind of theme behind it.
Sure.
Unless you're playing GURPS, which has every theme.
Right. You could also look at a themed campaign as basically like nearly every book WotC puts out. Right.
Yes.
Wilds Beyond the Witchlight. That is a Feywild themed campaign.
True.
Our Ghost of Saltmarsh, right? That is an oceanic pirate themed campaign.
Yeah, so it's much like the ones in 3.5 as well.
Yes.
Ravenloft is a themed campaign of
Sure.
horror.
Gothic horror.
Gothic horror.
Well, now they've kind of, with Van Richten's guide, they've kind of spread it out so that each domain is a different brand of horror.
Good. They should.
Yeah. They've got some eldritch horror thrown in there. They've got some gothic horror.
Zombie horror, survival horror. They got all kinds of horror, man. Horror's happening. It is. So,
especially soon.
yes. So, themes, story, character archetypes.
Yeah.
And then, again, these are just some ideas. There's probably some other stuff that you can theme for your campaign. But we're going to give you some ideas to write your own themed campaign or use an existing one.
Sounds good.
So you can do this either for the world that you're playing in or a totally different world. Now, TTRPGs already have themes. So why do you want to write your own specific theme, since we just said there's tons of box sets out there?
Maybe you want to try something new that hasn't been covered.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you don't have that steampunk.
Right.
You didn't buy that set. You want to try it in D&D. Look at every third-party thing that's ever come out. People say, here's D&D from the chassis, and we've skinned it to do whatever.
Right.
Maybe you want to challenge your players.
Sure. If your players are encyclopedic connoisseurs of whatever game system you're playing, reskinning things, adding a new theme or a new set of challenges is good for them.
Absolutely. And it's good for you because they don't always have the answers.
Yeah.
If your knowledge of the Forgotten Realms is quite extensive,
It is.
if I were to run a game in the Forgotten Realms with you, I might change some things up so that you don't intrinsically know who directly to go towards.
Sure.
If we were doing a themed campaign, it'd be fun. Additionally, there's some other reasons why you want to run a themed campaign.
Oh, you just want to write your own story.
Simple as that.
Yep.
You've got an idea in your head, write a story, do it.
I have a concept for that entire campaign as well. And lastly, because it's awesome.
Because it's awesome. It's awesome to do a themed campaign. It's so much fun. You could have the typical party. We're going to go fantasy here real quick.
Sure.
So cleric, wizard, rogue, paladin that dies.
Fighter of some sort.
Fighter of some sort, yeah. And whatnot, right? Maybe a sorcerer or a scion, or depending upon what you're playing. Or the typical runners. You got Decker, you got the Street Sam, the Rigger, the urban shaman, perhaps.
Yep. And
Whatnot.
maybe a mage.
Maybe a mage, corporate wage mage, or just mage.
Yep.
Straight up mage.
Street mage.
Street mage, yeah. Just, roaming the streets. Got his trench coat, little cyber eye because he got his other one shot out. He's hard drinking, kind of scruffy. Kind of looks like the dude from the Dresden Files, except with the cyber arm and just the other eye that's not robotic has seen too much, guys.
So much.
So you can theme, because if you just got the typical party that you play all the time, it's always fun to do something a little different, character-wise, story-wise, and so forth. All right, so how do we come up with a theme campaign?
Well, you can base it off of a bunch of different things. You can base it off of character classes, like an all-warlock campaign.
Mm-hmm. So
or
archetypes.
Yeah, even archetypes.
What do we mean when we say archetypes?
Well, you can do character archetypes and like story archetypes,
Mm-hmm.
right? So character archetypes would be like even narrowing it further down into subclasses. That would be an archetype you could choose. Or you could do it as all members of the same church,
Mm-hmm.
right? That would be an archetype that you could lean into.
You could also do character styles. So it wouldn't matter the class, but we talk about like the Thieves campaign. All of them belong to a thieves organization.
That doesn't mean they're rogues.
No,
they belong to Thieves Guild.
They just like to steal.
Yeah.
And why not? It's fun.
It's lucrative.
It's lucrative. Yeah, it's
and
great.
fun.
It is fun. Speaking of like Thieves Guilds, you could base a theme off of an organization.
Right.
That's easy to do as well. So we mentioned the Thieves Guilds. What are some other organizations just off the cuff? And we've got a list of stuff too, but
Sure. I talked about running a revolution campaign. It's got to be a resistance.
yeah, you might have some freedom fighters.
Yeah.
You could have an alchemist guild. That would be a fun. I've never played an alchemist campaign.
Nope.
And anybody that wants to play it, I'm looking directly at you. Hit me up. You could play a group of people on the run, or a group of, I don't know, hunters. And either hunters as in hunters in the game, or just like a group of people that monster hunt.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Sure.
We've actually played that before a couple times. You could do story types. And this is a huge thing because, as we mentioned, most TTRPGs, most tabletop games, have some kind of story type.
Yeah, they've got a genre built in.
Yeah. So we're talking steampunk, we're talking cyberpunk, we're talking punk, we're talking
High fantasy,
high fantasy,
low fantasy.
yeah, middling fantasy. It's film noir, occult horror,
Grimdark.
yeah, high school, yeah, whatever the hell the story type is. And in addition to that, genres of things.
Sure. Just horror is its own theme. If you want to play a horror game, feel free.
Or a genre of like being in an office. Like imagine a whole game that starts in an office. Everybody works in the office. So the copy boy might be this character class or whatnot. Depends on the game, right? If you're
Sure.
playing Monster Hearts, they're all different monsters. That would be fun. You work in a summer job playing Monster Hearts. Everybody's a different type of monster and it all happens
Sure.
as it is.
Another fun one would be like, what if you're all cops, right?
Mhm.
Or you're at an EMS place where you've
Mhm.
got cops and actual EMS people and maybe firefighters and stuff like that. And you go from D20
So you're
modern.
talking like Rescue Rangers, but with the D&D flair?
Hold on. No. You start off with like modern D20
Mhm.
and then estate transference.
Yeah.
Sorry for I said estate transference like everybody's going to know what I'm talking about. Okay. In older editions of D&D, there was an ability where in a specific plot of land got transferred to a different place, and a plot of land from that place came to where you are. So imagine you're all firefighters or whatever, and then all of a sudden your fire truck, your whole firehouse, everything within half a block gets sucked into Forgotten Realms.
There you go.
And
What are you going to do?
And that half a block of Forgotten Realms has been sucked into real time.
Yeah, that's going to suck for them.
But you won't be there to deal with that.
That's true. So you could pick one of these categories. You could pick a couple of categories. You can mix and match these categories however you like to build your themed campaign. Use them like Lego blocks, right?
Sure.
Shift them around. Take bits and pieces of things that you like. Get inspired by film, TV, books, other games even.
Yeah. And watching random old movies is a great way to do. And when I say old, I mean everything from black and white to, for some of you, 5 years ago.
Yes.
Because old is a very relative term.
And Matt has a list of movies about that long that he hasn't watched, so he is
It's true.
constantly being inspired by these.
And in fairness, I've got a list of movies that most people haven't ever seen. So
That's also true as well. See what fits well and what further develops the world or the setting you're playing for. So give me an example of that.
all right. So if you wanted a high fantasy game, but you wanted it to have intrigue and criminals.
Okay, so
Right.
high fantasy plus intrigue plus criminals.
Right. So Symbia at night in the Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, there you go. So taking an existing campaign, I mean, because Symbia is in the Forgotten Realms.
Sure.
It's country, guys. Shadowvar, very, very nasty. Depends on what time you play, too, if you're playing
Sure.
like before the
Spell Plague
Yeah,
or-
before the Spell Plague or after the Spell Plague or
Before or after the Return of the Archmagi or
yeah, but Symbia's been around for a while, so but it's still very intriguey.
Sure.
But playing a bunch of criminals would be fun in that area.
You could also do Kalimshan would be a good place.
You
for
could,
that.
yeah. That'd be fun. I'll give you another one. Cyberpunk plus being on the run and the theme of high school. So imagine a group of high school kids in Shadowrun
Mm-hmm.
that accidentally hacked into Rinronku.
Sure.
Now, they could all be Deckers.
It's like the movie Hackers, basically.
Actually, yes.
But
Yes,
set in cyberpunk.
yes. So, yes, was it 1980s movie Hackers?
90s.
90s?
90s.
Was it 90s? Yeah. All I remember is,
I know.
okay. I remember boobs and spray painting their keyboard because they were going commando, which is ridiculous.
Sure.
And they were hacking with a Macintosh. Oh, how ridiculous. And if you bang on the keyboards faster, then obviously you're a better hacker. Yeah, you got to bang on those keyboards fast. I mean, come on. Can't be lead if you can't hack fast. Oh, God.
Keep in mind, nobody who wrote the movie
Knew anything about computers?
knew anything about computers.
No, of course not.
And nobody who
Starred in the movie, knew anything about computers. And to be perfectly honest, nobody in the 90s, aside from a select few of us, knew anything about computers. Seemed right. Hey, Jane, again,
look good.
look good.
That's all that was important.
That's
It looked
what
good.
happens. Yeah. So you can see that you can blend different themes into a very solid and fun game to play.
Sure.
Now, once you've gotten those themes kind of muddled about in your head and you've mixed and matched them and so forth, what are you going to do with that? Like, what do you have to do to follow the premise?
Well, first you have to start, right? And where do you start? Realistically, in the middle,
Mhm.
and then build out in each direction. If you want to do Symbia at night,
Okay.
realistically, that's the middle.
Yeah. And I also say, when we say start in the middle also, we mean don't start it like in a bar. Don't start it like, oh, you are welcome to Symbia, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you can, it's fine. But if you want some inspiration, go listen to our episode. It doesn't start in a bar because, Matt.
Because it doesn't start in a bar.
That's every time.
Unless the bar is on fire. And that's how the
And that's
game
how
starts.
it starts. Yes. So go back and listen to that episode if you want some inspiration on to jump into the middle of a game. And actually, a lot of that stuff that we said were theme ideas.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So start in the middle of a campaign, or start in the middle of a story arc, or start in the middle of something,
Right.
Get into the meat of it, man. Jump in. If the idea you want to do a battle, have the battle happening when you start the first game.
Yep. Literally, everybody sits down, gets comfortable. Everybody got the character sheets. Cool. I'm glad to see everybody's here. Everybody's comfortable. Roll initiative.
The ballista bolt flies through the
window.
fortification that you guys were in. Yeah, something like that. That's cool, right?
Yeah.
How cool is that? So cool.
Sure.
If that was true, what else is true? We're using that improv term, right?
Right.
Follow the story. If your world is based off of, we use Symbia by Night, right? Bunch of criminals and intrigue. What else is true about the world that you're building? Maybe intrigue is an integral part of your game, and so you're going to focus on that aspect, maybe even to the exclusion of other aspects of the game, like murder hoboing.
Yeah. It's very difficult to be successful at intriguing if you're busy
Stabbing everything.
hoboing.
Yeah, when you're murder hoboing everything, guess what? That's a murder hobo game.
Sure. Now, if you're an intimidation hobo, that still counts as intrigue if it's done properly.
True. And this brings us to the next point. What are the limits to the story? Where does your theme break? So if you're not going to, murder hobo, what else will break the game, or at least break the illusion of the game? So a good example of that, let's say, and we don't play a lot of these, but let's say you play like a romance RPG.
Sure.
Lots of people play these. Stabbing people in a romance RPG is typically frowned upon. If the intent is to play some kind of, like romance game or some kind of story arc game, there's going to be a lot more RP versus roll with the ROLL.
Right.
So that is what I mean by that's going to break the story. Now you can have a little bit of that to add dramatic tension.
Right.
But if you've got a couple players and all they do is they want to stab people, guess what? You've now got a different game.
Sure. Now, that said, understand, I don't have a problem with a murder hoboing game. If that's what people want to play to have a good time, great. That's awesome. There are things you can do to break murder hoboing camp. If you've got one player who wants to play a monologuing bard that wants to monologue for 45 minutes, that's breaking the murder hoboing game.
Yes, by monologuing for 45 minutes.
But from the DM side of that, you can either break it up or break it by how much repercussion you decide to apply for people's actions. A little bit to keep people thinking, that's one thing. But if you're like, these people are onto you now, they're watching everything you do, you've stopped playing a murder hobo campaign because you've made the repercussions to the point where you're not playing the game that we decided we were playing anymore.
Yeah, and it comes down to session 0 and understanding what your players want to play. We'll get to running the themed campaign.
Sure.
But I agree. Yeah, so think about that. How has the world changed because you're running the specific type of campaign? I mean, I mentioned that was true. What else is true, right?
Right.
Do these events allow different ways to play maybe the usual characters you might play? I'll give you an example. Let's say you're playing one of our favorite games, playing Shadowrun.
Sure.
But the theme is zombie apocalypse.
Okay.
Now, how does that change your typical run, chummer? You've got a new metavirus that breaks out and it turns everybody into a bunch of just flesh-eating ghouls. They're like literally undead flesh-eating ghouls.
It's really going to depend. No, if it's a zombie survival, For my primary character, it literally changes nothing.
Which one? The
D.
your explosives expert.
Yeah.
Well, for my shaman, it's just I'm still going to urban
renewal, right?
Yeah, but
And you and I are going to do the same thing. We're going to set off a noise-making device in the middle of a deserted warehouse, pack it full of as many creatures as we can,
and level the playing field.
Yep. And destroy the block and call it a day.
There you go. Problem solved. That's you and me.
Yeah.
Now, but this changes the mechanics, because if you're going to do a run,
Sure.
now the level of complexity has got. You can't just go down to the stuffer shack or down to your local arms dealer, load up on some gear to go do that run, because you're still doing runs. Got to pay for food. Now you also have to dodge sketchy zombies as well.
Well, I mean, yeah, everything's a scavenger hunt on top of whatever runs you could be doing. Because, I mean, I think you can assume that the corps are going to basically lock down their embassies, their giant corporation.
Oh, yeah, their ecologies are locked down.
Yep.
So it's a different style that you play. You may have to go out into the wilderness, and then the awakened critters. What happens if they become zombies? Oh, no. Now it's really bad, right? Now you've got awakened zombie juggernauts barreling down at you, gigantic house-sized armadillos that stink of undeath.
Is it really different than a regular juggernaut bearing down on you? Basically, you destroy it before it destroys you. Those are your options.
It's fair enough. Yeah. Okay. I'll go. Okay. So
most of the large creatures, it's
undead devil rats.
Sure.
Now that would be scary.
Yeah. Suboptimal.
Suboptimal. Indeed. You can nuke it from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. So think about that sort of playstyle, right?
Sure.
How does it change the game world to you? Do these events allow different ways to play than the usual characters? Yeah, possibly. You might even have different character classes based off it. You want to talk about D&D and steampunk, right?
Sure. I mean, you're going to have the artificer now.
Mm-hmm. Well, the artillerist would be very useful in that. You may have less of a certain character class too. You may not want to play with that.
I think for steampunk, you can make a case for most of them.
Hmm?
So I think that's less of an issue. But if you are in a, say, Dark Sun, right? If you like, oh man, I love Dark Sun, but there's no 5th edition for it. I'm going to write it up and run it myself. Not going to have a lot of paladins running around.
No clerics.
Ooh. You can have clerics, but they got to be elemental.
There you
and
go.
You're going to have to write up brand new subclasses subclasses for them.
Well, and this brings up a very interesting point. If the theme does cause some rewrites, like say you want to add gods to Dark Sun.
Okay.
You could do it. I mean, it's possible. It'd be interesting. A lot of story, right?
Pre-cataclysm.
Sure. Or maybe post-cataclysm. Maybe some gods start popping up or something like that. How does that add a spin on an old game?
Yeah.
So if you need to make a new setting, or can you use the existing setting? At some point, you're going to change enough that it becomes a new game.
Right.
And that's fine. I've written my own game. You've written your own game before. Someday we'll publish it if I get around to finishing the artwork and stuff like that.
Sure.
But you can either run and alter existing themes and stories for a current game that's out there with all the rules and stuff like that. Because, I mean, look, we're ad-libbing. It's improv, right? We're playing a game. Or if it breaks it enough, just make a completely different game. Use those bones.
Right.
And it should be noted that if you're going to sell it, you want to make sure you can use those bones.
Yes.
And there are open licenses and there are not. But if you're just playing your campaign, that doesn't matter. You can play any game you want.
Sure.
Both are fun. We've done both of these.
I honestly, you brought it up. I haven't played a zombie apocalypse game.
Really?
Yeah. I think that would be fun.
We could do that.
Like a survivalist game.
Yeah. I like that as well. All right. We will talk more about running a themed campaign, but we'll be right back
after these messages.
You with the face. Do you like what we have to say?
Help our channel rise from the depths like the mighty Godzilla.
Please like and subscribe and ring the bell and do all of the necessary YouTube.
What he said.
If there are any topics you would like us to cover, goods or services you would like us to review, or if you would like to sponsor an episode, we would love for you to contact us at info@goblinscorner.com. See you there. And we're back.
Welcome back.
So we're talking themed campaigns.
Yeah.
How to make them, how to
Sure.
run them, and waxing philosophical a bit about different types of styles. And what we were talking earlier was whether to write your own style campaign using either the bare bones of another game to play for your players, or make up your own game entirely with its own rules, or just slap on a couple of themes depending upon how lazy you feel.
Sure.
And you can do any of that. You can do all of that.
Yeah.
We've done all of that. And it's fun to make your own game. It's a lot of work, but it's also a lot of fun to just take an existing theme, something simple and quick, toss it in.
100%.
So let's talk about if we just stay in an existing world that's already created.
Okay.
Doesn't matter the game.
All right. So if you're going to stay in an existing world, then even if you're changing themes and such as that, it needs to be recognizable as the world you're in.
Yeah. And the reason because of that is familiarity.
Yeah.
If you recognize the game world enough that it's just a spin on things, we go back to Symbia, right? It's in the Forgotten Realms. People remember the Forgotten Realms. It's all about, I know where I am in relation to the other stuff because I've read the lore. Maybe I've read Salvatore's books or whatnot, Candlekeep stuff. I know about the game world, put a different spin on it. That's pretty easy.
Sure. Take the zombie apocalypse
Mhm.
concept, right?
Could throw that in Forgotten Realms too.
Symbia is a land of riches and wealth and fabulous architecture, and the zombie apocalypse for that area is far more horrifying because of the juxtaposition.
Yeah. And that would be a fun thing to play.
And so, providing that juxtaposition, if you set a zombie apocalypse in the real world, to me, the best thing to do is to use a location that's known to as many of your players as possible because of the juxtaposition.
Because you want some ground,
Right.
that like firm ground in a story that people can kind of latch onto. Because if you go too crazy off in left field, there's not enough realism, or at least illusion of realism from the story that they can grasp onto. And then players aren't really going to get into the story, and it's going to be kind of
Right.
And so that's why playing in an existing world is a lot of fun. However, it's also really fun
To just make it up.
make up your own world.
Yep.
You can either make it up completely with your story, and if you're the type of person that can write an entire story or make it up like I do, then do it.
Sure.
We played a game very similar using 3.5 rules, and now we're using 5th, but it's in a D&D style game, but my own game world that I've written over many years. Got lots of pages in it. A lot of work.
The important thing, if you're going to make up your own world, is to provide your players enough information to play in it.
Yes. And that is the con as well, because if you don't give them enough information, or you don't make it interesting enough, and that's something you also have to find out, they're not going to read it, or they're not going to play it, and they're not going to understand it. So you have to be a bit of a better storyteller in some aspects, or at least a better writer, so that
Right.
people understand what world they're playing in. Now, what's fun about that is, though, even though there's a lot more hard work, the player characters, and you should do this anyway because of consequence of actions, but the player characters are much more invested in the world because their characters then become part of the story of the world.
Right. And one of the things you have to think about is details. For example, if you're making up your own world and one of your players comes from a small farm town, they're going to know literally everything about that farm town because there's 30 people that they've met in their life.
Yep. So you have to write that farm town.
Whereas if somebody's coming from a major city, you might know 6 of your freaking neighbors and their kids that you grew up with, but generally speaking, you know about the city. You know where the dock ward is. You know where the priest ward is, or however the city is set up.
Mm-hmm.
You know about it, but realistically, you don't know everyone in it. You know the one shop that you usually go get groceries, you know, right? Like simple day-to-day stuff.
Yep.
But there's a million people in that town, and you don't know 0.01% of them.
Yeah. And there's ways to handle knowledge amongst characters while you're building a game world. And we've talked about this in city building and all the other, building episodes we've talked about. So if you want to go back and listen to that, by all means, do so. If not, make it up on your own.
And you can always use the phrase, oh, and so, you would know this because you're from here.
Yep. It's always great. Okay. So we've built our game world or our theme for our campaign. How do we run it specifically? And we've already developed
now we're talking
everything.
Mechanics.
Yeah. Yes, in many ways. How do we mechanically run a game that is themed specifically for whatever style we want to run it for?
You run it according to the strengths of the themes. So, especially character themes. But for example, if you're all thieves, then realistically, you're going to run a game that involves some thievery, probably a fair amount of it.
One would think, yes. Right. So style it according to the theme first. This sounds stupid. I mean, honestly, it sounds like it's common sense. That's because it is.
Yeah, but people can get overwhelmed, and it's nice for them to have an anchor of like, okay, this makes sense. Not just to me, but it makes sense. Okay, I'm not doing the boring thing here. I don't have to throw them way off the beaten path.
I'll use an example. So we've played one of our favorite games we've played is the Pirate Campaign.
Sure. I believe they've probably heard of it.
They might have. We played, guess what? Everybody played Pirates.
For like 3 years?
Yeah, for at least 3 years. And what did you guys do? You pirated.
Yes.
You swashbuckled and fought and stole, and you were on the Sea of Falling Stars just wrecking it.
Yep.
And it was great. But we started off saying, all of you are pirates. What kind of pirate do you want to be? And that's how it started. And then for several games, we harped on the fact that you were on a pirate ship. You don't own the ship, you worked for it. And then eventually you got to owning your own ship and so forth. So we expanded
Eventually we got to stealing our own ship.
Yes. I mean,
because we were pirates.
Of course. So we set ground rules on what is allowable and what isn't. So we said, we're playing pirates,
sure,
which means if you play a paladin, he better be a paladin of piracy. I mean, and that was how it worked.
Sure.
If the theme isn't murder hoboing, you want to limit the murder hoboing. We weren't in this game, but
we were not.
We said there's going to be morally questionable things, and if you play a lawful good character, you might have some problems with that.
It's true.
Which meant everyone was some version of chaotic, except for one of our friends' characters who was lawful neutral.
Yeah.
But he had a great reason for it.
Yeah.
What else can we do? And this also brings up, by the way,
Session 0.
Yeah. So go over these rules. Tell people what they need to expect with this themed campaign.
You need specificity here.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just say, oh, there may be some parts of this that are graphic. What kind of graphic? There's graphic violence. There's graphic sex. There's graphic torture. Specificity is better.
Particularly if it's something like that type of subject. If you're just talking about, hey, we're going to be some pirates, pirate themes, yar, all that stuff, cool. Session 0, that just to make sure everybody's interested in playing that. But then if you're talking about, look, pirate life is violent. There's a lot of craziness that's going on. If
they used to take hostages.
Yeah, if that type of stuff is not cool, then you need to make sure that that's not cool with your players. They need to know what.
Yeah.
And they should have a say in that as well.
Yes, 100%. So basically, where's your volume setting at, right? Like, are you an Errol Flynn type pirate where everything's fun and occasionally people just break out in the song and dance and the violence is exciting, but not terribly violent? Or are you real life? We are going into towns, shanghaiing people, murdering people, kidnapping people. Where are you at on the scale?
Yeah, because that's two different scales of piracy.
Yes.
And
Both have context either in the real world or in entertainment, but you need to know where you're at.
Yep.
With your players.
so you should be doing this regardless of any game you run. We've talked about session zeros many times.
Yes.
But when you're running a themed campaign, you got to kind of sell it on your players first. And then you got to kind of... And
if
then
nobody wants to play the pirate campaign, the thief campaign, whatever, maybe that's not the campaign either you need to run now, or you need to find a group of people who are excited to play that game.
Yep. In addition, style is important. I mean, it's always important.
Very much so.
But, yeah, adjust your pretend tie. But what do we mean when we say style in terms of a theme?
So, once again, you stay on brand, right? Spice it up. What are the sights, the sounds, maps, figures? What is the flavor of this theme, and how can you get it across to your players while they're playing?
Yep. Now, if you're coming up with this off the cuff, stay on point with descriptions. If you're running off a module and you're adding a little theme, you can run that module with just a different flair. And
Sure.
that's also fun. Again, both of these are fun. You can use modules. Many game systems have great third-party modules. As we mentioned, Ravenloft is horror for D&D. Straight up. There's a theme. There you go. You can run the module. Bam. Doing something different in the D&D world or whatever. All the other game systems have different themes as well. Some of the third-party stuff for other campaigns is just like that. You can run a different theme. If you're making it up yourself, though, then you want to make sure that those descriptions are key.
I will give you one of the great hints. Nat Geo has amazing photographs of every type of terrain you can imagine. Maybe not every type, but most types of terrain that you can imagine. You're not branding them. You're not selling them. You're not for your home game. If you say you walk up on a beautiful oasis, it's called Morocco. They have them. They're gorgeous. And Nat Geo's got pictures.
So you show pictures while you're playing the game.
Yes.
Yeah, I get that.
Work on your descriptive ability. Absolutely. But you have people who are visually connected more than audibly.
So bring some visual aids.
Sure.
If you're a great artist, sketch some visual aids. If you are great at internet searches, find some visual aids.
Google Foo.
Yeah. Do something. Same thing with music, right? Find some good music to play, some mood music. We've talked about entertaining guests and running a campaign at your house or whatnot.
Yeah.
Sight, smells, all that jazz. This is what's really important for the theme, because you want to nail that theme down. Everybody kind of gets into it. It's fun. That sort of thing.
Sure. If you're doing a pirate campaign, before everybody gets there, just open a tin of fish and leave it in the room for a bit.
So have some rum and seawater.
Yeah, microwave some sardines.
Ah, yeah. That's throw your trash about so it just kind of stinks up the room. And the smell of the ocean right there. Now, where's me peg leg? Okay, so what are the weak points of a theme as well? And this is important to note because there's a lot of strong suits for specific themes. Where do they fall short? Use those weak points as challenges for either the characters themselves or just for the story arcs in general.
Yeah.
So what do we mean by that?
Take your rogue campaign,
Okay.
for example.
I will take my rogue campaign. We'll steal it right now. Okay.
Good job.
Yes.
If their enemies are not very roguelike,
Mm-hmm.
then that crossover creates strengths and weaknesses in your players.
So if they're...
SWAT teams are not very roguelike.
No. So you might have a rogue campaign where they play SWAT team people or vice versa.
Sure.
So you're juxtapositioning two different types of character archetypes.
Yeah.
And that's an easy way to do that. Another good example, if you're in a mage campaign, have your assailants be a bunch of mage killers. Oh no, they're resistant to magic. What are we going to do? Those are just different challenges. And these are just simple examples. You could do this with the themes as well.
Yeah. The answer is drop a building on them.
Yeah. Well,
That's my answer
urban
for a great
renewal is
deal.
always, it's always an answer. Have a point to the story theme. Give it a start, a middle, and an end. So you don't have to write the entire story out when you're doing a theme campaign, but it's important to maybe have an idea of when the beginning, the middle of your story arc in your theme is, and maybe when you should start wrapping it up and either doing a different theme or continuing in a different direction.
Sure. One of the things I like to think about if I'm planning out an entire campaign, right? Let's say I expect there to be a 3-year campaign. I know a lot of people don't have that kind of time, and I get it, but just in general. So you have a 1-year story arc, a 2-year story arc, and a 3-year story arc.
Okay.
You plant the seeds for all 3 stories from the beginning, and you keep unfolding all 3 storylines. It's just each one has a payoff at a different time.
So kind of like if the show gets canceled.
Yes.
So if you can play for a certain amount of time, say 6 months, you have a 6-month arc. At the end of the 6 months, you can stop or you can continue on. If you continue on, you move to the next stage, stop, continue on. What a great way to do that. Now, these can change on the fly too.
Sure.
You don't need to like have them set in stone. Just kind of have a general direction of where they're going.
Yeah. If your players come across some stimulus you provide that just pinballs them in another direction.
Cool.
Dope.
Adjust the bullet points.
Yep.
And when we say like literally just write some bullet points, that's all you need to do. If you want to write out more, cool, but it's not necessary. Again, we're just talking writing some campaigns, coming up with stuff off the fly.
Sure.
Finally, how will the characters progress in the story or progress as characters? So if you've written different archetypes or if you're doing a different theme, what's changing about how they level up or get karma or whatnot?
Right.
And what are their driving goals?
So in a pirate campaign,
Fat loots are the driving goals.
well, not just that, but capturing ships, doing things that pirates do are what would drive their experience milestones.
I got to buckle some swashes and
Yeah, man.
climb the main sail, and
If you don't swing on the rigging a couple of times,
you're not doing it right.
you don't get any eeps at all.
You
I can't
pirate.
trust you.
How dare you pirate without swinging on the ropes? Come on. If you don't go down to Davy Jones' locker at least once. I mean, that's what the cleric of the ocean is, to res you after you swim with the fishes some.
Yeah.
So-
Or, the druid of the deeps.
Yeah. A zombie apocalypse driving goal for the characters. What is that? Simple. Survive.
Right.
And overarching goal might be rebuild civilization. Those are goals that people can focus on regardless of the side jobs and all that stuff. Here's a good one. The what is it? Like the overarching villain theme that we have, Sauron.
Sure.
Get the ring back to Mount Doom, right?
Yep.
Save the world.
Chuck it in the hot tub.
That's a theme, guys. That's easy to come up with. That's a very common theme.
Sure.
So think about that kind of stuff.
And if they fail, well, there's no reason to worry about eeps.
Yeah, because they're dead. Okay. So that's pretty much running a theme campaign.
Right.
Now, we would be remiss if we did not give you several examples of different types of themes.
Sure.
And this, of course, I will preface by saying is not an exhaustive list at all.
It cannot be.
I spent a few minutes. Matt spent a few minutes.
Yeah.
We updated the list. We've come with several categories, though. We've got group-related or character themes, story and genre-related themes, event-related themes, and that's it.
Yeah.
And those 3 types. But this will give you guys kind of a little bit of flavor, a little bit of ideas. Please come up with more. If you want to have some extra ones you want to share with us, we'd be more than delighted to post them online.
Sure. So let's start off with the character or group related ones.
Well, we've already talked this into the Dirt Rogue campaign. There you go.
Yep.
Playing
Pirates.
thief.
We did that one too.
Pirate. We did rogues and pirates. Evil campaign. Everybody's an evil character. These are all character archetype themes,
Right.
by the way.
Everybody's evil.
Yeah. This is, by the way, a fun campaign to play and one you must session 0.
several times.
You must session 0 the evil campaign.
Yes.
Because you're going to learn a lot about your friends.
Yeah.
And how twisted they can get.
Absolutely. Like, there are people who are going to dive straight into the depths if you let them.
Oh, God. It can get dark, my friends.
Yeah. In a hurry.
Yeah. 5 minutes. Everybody is good.
Yeah.
This
a classic
paladin style
or even just a classic hero campaign.
Yeah.
Like not adventurers, but heroes.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
A group of detectives.
Rawr.
Yeah, you might gumshoes of some sort. So either you're playing you're literally playing detectives, or your character classes are structured to be around detectives. Lots of fun, solving crimes, right?
Yep.
On the other side of the equation, or slightly on the same side of the equation, the law, just playing police or some kind of enforcer, vigilante. Yeah, Batman. Yeah. I'm playing the goddamn Batman. All right, spies.
Sure. Spy campaigns are a lot of fun.
And that rolls up to the revolution stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because spies and revolution go hand in hand, my friends.
Hunter campaigns, i.e. bounty hunters, ghost hunters, monster hunters.
Yeah.
We hunt everything, anything.
Bring it back dead or alive.
Dead. We bring it back
Bring
dead.
it back dead. You can also do stuff like low-level campaigns where everybody starts at level 1 or 2 or 3.
Or even campaigns that stay relatively low level for the whole course of the campaign. There are people who love low-level campaigns.
Yep. There are people who love pre-epic campaigns. And one which is, I would say, fairly difficult to run when you're like level 20 and up. What happens if your characters are all a bunch of demigods? I know, Matt can do this. New rules. It's tough, I'll tell you.
It is. No, it is and it's not, honestly. So it is difficult to run brand new players in high-level campaigns because there's a lot to keep track of. But if your players have played even 10th level characters for any amount of time, they should very quickly become comfortable with their own stats. And once they're comfortable with their stats, you don't have to worry about it.
Yep.
Because you should trust the people you're playing with.
Otherwise,
or you should stop playing with those
stop playing with those people. Characters are all superheroes. Now, this could be literally playing a superhero campaign, which there's lots of games out there.
Sure.
Or they are, quote unquote, superheroes of some spin on the vigilantism, if you want.
Sure. I like the idea of playing a D20 modern campaign where everybody's warlocks.
And they're all superheroes of
and
some
they're
sort.
all superheroes.
Oh, that'd be super cool. I love that.
Their patron is like
justice. The patron of like the spirit of justice.
Yeah.
And he talks in a gravelly voice like the goddamn Batman.
But they can pick any patron, like they all have the same patron, but they pick different like mechanical patrons because they're different types of superheroes. Like an old one could be a mentalist superhero because he's got telepathy and stuff.
Sure.
Or you've got Dazzler, for example, right? Clearly a Phaloc.
Yes.
Obviously.
Shiny.
Yeah.
So shiny.
So things like that.
I like everything about this. They could also be like domains, like cleric domains.
Sure.
Spin it off like that. We've got one where the players all play monsters.
I like it. I like the mix and match of this one. I like players are all monsters and players are all good.
Yeah, because then that really throws a curveball into the whole evil thing.
Yep.
We've got some story and genre related themes as well. Let's list a few of these.
Film noir.
Oh.
See?
Little Sam Spade.
Yeah.
Just rolling down the street. Got a
Cagney and Lacey action.
Yeah, a little cocktail in my hand.
Play it, Sam.
I got a little revolver, a fedora. I love a little murder. That screams murder mystery or eldritch horror to me. But it could be imagine something different with that. Film noir steampunk. Film noir cyberpunk.
Film noir superheroes.
Film noir superheroes. Yeah.
Who knows what secrets lie in the heart of men? The shadow knows.
Film noir space opera.
Sure.
I mean, it could be anything.
Yep.
That was Altered Carbon.
Yep.
It's film noir and kind of super sci-fi. Steampunk, we mentioned.
Sure.
We've mentioned horror, beat that into the ground, all the flavors of that. But what are some other interesting ones that maybe we haven't mentioned already?
A comedy game.
Now, that's something you don't see a lot. And yet, what a fun theme to play on, where it's literally comedy. Doesn't matter what game system it is, just...
We are taking... The session zero is, we are literally taking nothing seriously here. Give me your most ludicrous ideas, and I'm going to put them in a ludicrous setting.
ridiculousness.
Yes. So, imagine, if you will, if I pitched a game playing in Xanth.
I'd be down with that.
But
I would have to work on my puns more because
it would be ludicrous.
I would be a punomancer.
Sure. College of Satire Bard.
Fair enough. There you go. Here's another idea. What happens if you change the time frame? Go back in history.
Sure.
Everybody's a bunch of cavemen, or even further back, or
Everybody's dinos.
yeah, we're riding dinos. I mean, we got dino love here.
Absolutely.
I'm not wearing my dino shirt tonight, but I do that on every other night. Go into the far future. Now we've got space stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Now this could be a space game. There's plenty of games that are in space, where they're colony or sci-fi and stuff like that. But you can also take an existing game that isn't. So imagine World of Darkness in the future.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Absolutely. Oh, man.
That would be ridiculous, wouldn't it?
Oh, there are certain parts of it that would get even. So what happens to werewolves and such if they're now on a planet with 4 moons?
You know what I was also thinking is a kind of like, have you ever read the books like Red Mars, Blue Mars, Green Mars?
No.
Okay, where they colonize Mars over time. But imagine that as Deadlands. Like a Deadlands campaign.
Sure,
and the
I can see
Manitos
that.
come to the red planet with
Nice.
you. That would be twisted.
Yeah.
And fun.
Or the Manitos are there, and that's like the storyline is like Ghost of Mars style.
Oh, yeah. That would be great. Yeah, so there's an example. Talking about sci-fi a lot, we could also talk about fantasy as well. So things you might know, like Fosso did Shadowrun, might have Earth Dawn is another good example of that.
Sure. Or
just toss a bunch of people from the future into the past.
Or your space marines land on a planet and all the rules are different. Welcome to a magic world.
Oh, that would be cool too. Yeah, a lot of fun stuff with that. Any time period is fun. And that's a really easy theme to do. Just like, we're going to play this game, but now it's in the past, or it's in the 1800s, or it's in the Wild West.
Sure.
There you go. Simple as that. Quick and easy. Dystopians are also lots of fun to play as a theme.
Yeah. And all of the dystopians.
Yeah, pick one, right?
Everything from Waterworld to Mad Max to, I mean,
to just corporate dystopia to just
let's
the
face
world
it,
sucks
Shadowrun is a dystopia.
Absolutely. It's, a lot of dystopia going on. A martial arts style campaign. Everybody plays some kind of...
Sorry, the dark part of my brain was like, or you could just play D20 Modern because dystopia.
That is also true, yes. A martial arts campaign would be fun.
Oh, yeah. Like, literally the 5 Deadly Venoms as an RPG.
Yeah. Or even just everybody plays a bunch of fighters.
Yeah.
Nobody plays a magic user. They're all just some kind of mystic fist of some sort, or just straight up hack and slash.
Yep. Monks and fighters.
High school, we mentioned this.
Yes.
Or some kind of magic academy would also be another one. Monster Heart's a good example of like a high school theme, but imagine taking any campaign. We mentioned Shadowrun. Throw it in high school.
Yeah.
That'd be wicked.
Dimension 20 did a show called Fantasy Academy, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Or it might have been Magic Academy. But yeah, a lot of fun. Good stuff. But revenge and justice.
God,
Back to the super.
We could spend a whole show on just revenge.
Man.
Yeah, well, revenge too.
Yeah. Little Punisher action.
Yeah, so that'll definitely be an episode on themes at some point. Hack and slash, talked about murder hoboing. What are some event-related things as well? And these are just general ideas.
You've got a recurring bad guy campaign, right? It's just literally every time the PCs are about to get him. And in fact, we just did an episode about this.
Yep.
He gets away or she gets away. Who knows what it is?
Could be anything. Yeah, it could be.
But they've pre-planned all of these scenarios so that they can get away if they need to.
Mhm.
They have contingencies. They're smart enough.
And what if they win? That would be a great way to start the campaign. The bad guy won.
Yep.
There you go. World's destroyed. What are you going to have to pick up the pieces now? An artifact quest. You've got to find the rod of 7 parts. You've got to find the tooth of this mystical lion. You have to find the Archmage's toothbrush.
Sure.
Oral hygiene is key, folks.
It's true. It has a little flossing bit on the back, so you floss on one side and brush with the other.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, very nice.
It's good to be magic. Magic's gone.
Just straight up, got a magic world, no magic. Guess what? You better session zero that with your players, because if
anybody who's playing a magic user is going to be pissed.
Yeah, I'd be real pissed. An apocalypse is happening, like right now. That's how you start the game. The apocalypse happens. You walk outside. You put your sunglasses on. You realize the sunglasses aren't helping because there's a mushroom cloud from all of the nuclear warheads just falling down. Or everybody starts turning into mutants. Oh no, it's the X-Men. Oh no. There's no water. Now we've got Tank Girl. There's some kind of just crazy magical explosion or what, anything. Magic comes back.
Yeah.
Now we've got the awakening, chummer.
So, well, I've actually, you know, a game I've pitched once upon a time was you wake up tomorrow and something has occurred and magic is back.
In our
today's
quote
world.
unquote real world,
Yeah.
and we just pick whatever genre game we want to play with it.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be fun. You mentioned rebellion. The country's in rebellion. That's a real
Yeah.
easy theme. Something happened.
Whose side are you on? Are you on the government side or are you on the rebellion side?
I'm on the pirate side, obviously. Speaking of pirates.
Right, but which side are you pretending to be on?
Fair enough. Well, whichever one pays me the most. War. So land, sea, or air, or
All of the above?
space.
Yeah.
Interdimensional warfare, perhaps. Who knows?
So you got just opposing factions.
Yeah.
You live in a city and your gang's against somebody else's gang.
Mm-hmm. There you go. You're building something like a fortress.
Sure.
That's always a fun thing. Maybe you get a piece of land as an adventure, build that fortress up.
Or your adventuring company has been sent to found a town.
Oh, that sounds fun. On
Yeah.
the back of a Zaratan.
I mean, that's where
I would put it. Yeah, because it can move around then.
And Tiki Bar.
And a tiki bar. And we're literally running this one now. It's just one more job, guys.
Just one more.
You've been saved from certain death. This mysterious extra-dimensional being has hired you and your skill set to perform a job to clear off the fact that they saved you from death.
Yep.
How do you deal with that?
You got life on the run.
Yeah.
Whether or not you did it is completely immaterial to the fact that all of the people in charge think you did.
And who's following you?
Yeah.
What's following you? How do you get out of it? Can you clear your name? Or do you just stay on the lam?
Yep.
So there you have it. Some ideas, hopefully, that have generated all of the brain juices, gotten them flowing, so that you can write an excellent themed story for your campaign.
Did we miss something?
Write to us, info@goblinscorner.com, or you can reach me, Eric@goblinscorner.com, or
Me, Matt at goblinscorner.com.
we're on all of the things. Here are a few of the things that we happen to be upon. We are on,
Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube, and Twitch.
and that's Goblins Corner
And we're on Instagram.
as the Goblins Corner.
The is very important.
The is very important because we couldn't get just Goblins Corner.
That's because there is some other genius out there who stole it.
Wonderful person.
And or didn't steal it because they got to it first.
And just sitting on it. Do you like our show? Subscribe to the podcast on your favorite player, YouTube or Twitch.
You can also click the 5 stars, give us a review on iTunes, YouTube, and Podchaser.
Mhm.
It feeds the hungry algorithm, and it gets our show in front of more people, and that helps.
Yeah, so we can then promote more shows, tell more people how to play wonderful games, and do the things that we've been doing for the last year.
A whole year.
Whole damn year.
Congratulations, sir.
Yeah, well, takes two. That's all the time we have for tonight. Once again, my name is Eric,
And I'm Matt.
and we'll see you next time.
Have a good night.
The Goblin's Corner is written and produced by Eric Holden and Matt Staples.
Show song by the Mighty D20.
What a wonderful guy.
This is a Subterranean production.
The end.